The Roman state engineered the exact mechanism of its own collapse, building a machine too massive for any one system to sustain. If you want to explore the specific decisions that destroy history's greatest powers, subscribe and hit the bell. This map of the empire at its height shows a territory that completely encircled the Mediterranean, governing millions across 3 continents. Defending these borders required an ironclad presence stretching from the northern damp of Britannia to the arid heat of the Syrian deserts. Monumental stone architecture, like the Colosseum, projected an image of permanence, suggesting a power that would endure for as long as the marble itself. However, the sheer scale required to maintain this image eventually became the empire's greatest point of failure. To secure thousands of miles of frontier, Rome maintained a permanent standing army of nearly 500,000 legionaries, supported by a vast network of roads and fortifications. This created a recursive economic trap. Expanded borders demanded more soldiers, which required aggressive taxation. This drained the wealth of the provinces, eventually breaking the very economies the army was meant to protect. When the treasury could no longer meet these demands, the stability of the imperial succession died with it. The empire became a bureaucratic weight that cost more to operate than it could produce, slowly paralyzing the system from within. Power shifted to the barracks, and the throne became a military prize. Any general with enough loyal troops could march on the capital to seize the purple for himself. These constant civil wars turned Roman steel against Roman citizens, leaving the actual frontiers abandoned while legions slaughtered one another for political control. With the manpower of the interior depleted by internal strife, the state began to rely on hired barbarian mercenaries to fill the gap, effectively outsourcing the defense of the empire to its former enemies. Rome exhausted its blood and treasure fighting for the title of emperor, leaving the state defenseless when external threats arrived. Beyond the borders, the world was shifting. Driven by the expansion of the Huns, starving Germanic tribes crossed the Rhine and Danube in numbers that the weakened Roman legions could no longer contain. A system that once integrated or defeated outsiders was now too fragmented to manage the sudden arrival of thousands of refugees and warriors. In 410, the impossible happened. For the first time in 800 years, an enemy army breached the gates and sacked Rome. Tell us in the comments which ancient conflict you want to see us document next. The sack of 410 ended the myth of Roman invincibility, signaling to the world that the heart of the empire was now vulnerable. As the West crumbled, the Eastern Empire survived. By leveraging superior trade wealth and better geography, the East held its territory for another millennium. The final blow for the West came when Vandal forces seized North Africa and captured the wealthy city of Carthage. This map shows how trade routes were abruptly severed. Losing Africa meant losing the grain that fed the capital and the tax revenue that funded the military. The capture of Africa removed the primary source of revenue and resources that kept the Western Roman state and its army functioning. By the late 5th century, the Western emperors had become teenage puppets, placed on the throne by barbarian warlords who held the real authority. In 476, the Germanic leader Odoacer simply removed the young boy Romulus Augustulus from power. There was no final heroic stand. Odoacer boxed up the imperial insignia and mailed it to Constantinople as a matter of administrative cleanup. The Western Empire ended with an official gesture rather than a battlefield explosion. The temples and columns remained, but the central power that gave them meaning had vanished. The Western Roman state ultimately buckled under the structural weight of its own corrupted ambition. If you value this kind of deep historical research, like and subscribe to support